So this is biochemistry in. Oh, so we're doing comedy and science fiction. We got some funny people here. I'm not one of them. I'm not even sure why I'm doing this, except I brought it up, and Rob said, "You sound like you want to do this." I said, "I have to work on my delivery." But so everyone, let's go down and introduce yourselves. I know we've seen a lot of these faces before, but let's cast them in a new light, a comedy light. All right. So starting with Fred.
Okay,
Thank you very
that
much.
was different.
I'm Jerry Boyd, and I write allegedly funny books, several of them.
Oh, you've written a few, yeah. You're done. Okay.
I'm done. Yeah,
I didn't want to step on you there with your detailed intro. Once again, Robert Kroese. I've written 35 novels. Some of which are funny, and some of them are funny intentionally.
Very nice. So, how did you get into being funny, Rob? Class clown?
Yeah, I was. I've been asked this question before, and I have like the most depressing answer, which is have a painful childhood. If you have a lot of anger and you bottle it up inside and you don't let it out, and then you can till you're about to burst, and then you can kind of let just little bits out here and there, just as like snarky comments and stuff, and it helps if you're kind of smart and smarter than the people around you, and you can be really kind of mean and devastating, with a lot of therapy, you can eventually get to the point where you can be a functioning adult, but you can also possibly write some funny books that maybe some people will buy.
Life advice.
Right.
The other alternative is to become Stephen King, and we know how that turned out. So.
Right. Yeah.
you're saying with therapy you can be a functioning adult?
Well,
I got to get me some
I'm
of
saying,
this.
like in theory,
Results may vary.
right? Your results not typical. Yeah.
Well, my brother is 18 years old, was 18 years older than me. My older sister is 17 years older than me. My younger sister is 12 years older than me. I'm an accident, obviously. So I think it's more of a defense mechanism with me.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Yeah. It's sort of with me too. Same thing. Yeah.
I don't know. I've just always felt like cracking a joke, and some people seem to like the ones I crack. So I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I've been persuaded by Rob's point, which is that people with grim outlooks turn to comedy, and that people with a sunny disposition will often turn to horror. And I'm really drawn to the ultra dark humor, so you can figure that out. I will have to say, I was completely I really appreciated the reaction to the song last night, the people laughing along with it, but I was completely caught off guard by the laughter, because I thought I was writing a very grim horror song with some bizarro elements, and it was like they're laughing after every line here. It was a very weird experience. But thank you.
Well,
thank you. You liked it, so that's good.
I think that tends to happen though. If you're funny, you're not necessarily you have a way of looking at reality that seems like it seems normal to you. Like I've had editors before remark on lines where it's like, oh, this is a really funny turn of phrase or whatever, the way that you phrase that, and I was like, I wasn't trying to be funny. Like that's just how like the skewed outlook that I have.
That is my life. Yeah.
I think what we've learned here, I'm going to go home and yell at my parents for not.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, as an addendum to my horrible intro, is that I'm fine. I more or less, I got over a lot of this stuff. And the nice thing about it is that if you develop this mechanism, you have this sort of vestigial ability to tell jokes, even though like the horrible part has mostly gone away, and you're like pretty much well adjusted and living a relatively happy life. You still have this weirdness about you, and you can exploit it.
All right, exploiting psychological trauma.
Exactly. Yeah. You might as well
For
make
fun
some
and
money.
profit.
Good for anything else.
Exactly.
All right. All right. So now, influences. What do you have? Like right now, you're probably my number one influence in writing all my slides. That was just
it's kind of fashionable sometimes. A snobbish move is to say, "Oh, I don't have influences. I'm sui generis." I sprang from the forehead of Zeus, and but I think my approach is just to steal ideas from a million different places. I do have literary heroes, though. I mentioned Tim Powers in the previous panel as an alternate history author, but he is also really funny. But his humor he's not writing humor books, but he's writing books that are very humorous. I really like his sense of humor. His worldview also. There's just a whole bunch of reasons why I find him very simpatico.
Yeah, I think that I have a theory that maybe humor writers don't actually read a lot of humor, because that's not really what it like. Douglas Adams was a huge influence on me. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. But he was an influence to the extent that I thought, oh, people like this kind of stuff. This is cool. I mean, this is very enjoyable, and I could do something like this. And I like the way, the sort of his breezy writing style, and just very, very cheeky, and not like he tells you there's a spaceship, and he doesn't never, like, I hate this writing descriptions, but it's just like all that matters is that there's a spaceship. It doesn't matter, because it's basically he's telling a joke, and when you're telling a joke, you don't say it was a gigantic gray spaceship with blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter. And I was like, oh, you can write a novel like that. That's cool. But as far as my actual influences on writing, like the people who I that influenced me, that my style and the way I look at life is a lot more like Philip Dick. I went through a Kurt Vonnegut phase where I read a lot of his stuff. There is some stuff of his that's pretty funny, but it's very kind of dark and twisted and weird, kind of funny. And like one of the lines that sticks with me, and again, this is horrible, but like there's a woman, I think it's in Breakfast with Champions, maybe, where he talks about this woman committing suicide by drinking Drano, basically. And he explains that the reason that this worked was because the inside of a human is made out of basically the same kind of stuff that you get in your drain, that clogs up your drain. And that's just like a horrible observation. But it's like, it's kind of true. And so it's like, that's the kind of twisted stuff that I don't know, that strikes me. And I don't write anything quite well. Maybe I do. I write it very, very unseriously, and so it's maybe a little more tolerable.
So something we've learned tonight is if your drain is clogged by a human, just go with the Drano. It'll work.
As far as influences go, I mean, writing style, I try to go more William L'Amour and less Zane Grey. I mean, I've tried to read Riders of the Purple Sage at least 3 times. I think once I made it 25 pages in. There's only so much description I can handle.
Yeah.
But as far as humor influences, I can't say that that's all that literary. I mean, we're talking Groucho Marx.
That's actually, I was going to say the same thing. The Marx Brothers were actually a huge influence on me. And that my dad was a film prof, English and film prof, and one of the good things that he did for us as kids, as he showed us all these movies, is the old Marx Brothers movies. And even as kids, we loved them. We thought they were hilarious. I mean, especially like the Harpo stuff. It's just crazy antics and the one-liners and stuff. It's wonderful stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. It's all right. You're the boss man. You get to do that.
I can see if I can interrupt. I will.
To a certain extent, George Carlin, and Burt Reynolds. I mean, that's pretty much.
I have not read all the Bob and Nikki books. Is there one where they run a bunch of Coors Light across? galaxy.
There is now.
No, there's
No, there is not, but, you know,
Yeah, next year, come back next week and you'll have the book right.
you know, Bert and Ernie have done some pretty strange hauls, but I don't think they ever got around to Coors Light.
I know for me, after reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for the next 10 years, everything I wrote wasn't serious. It sounded like their sad stuff was out of dramatic.
Yeah,
Qualities.
and I fell into that a little bit too. My first novel, Mercury Falls, I think was a little bit like that, but apparently was funny enough and well written enough that it diverged enough from his style that people liked it. So.
And wait
Yeah.
a minute, you have beta readers that let you get away with grammatical oddities?
No, this was before I had any readers. This was just me sitting alone and going, oh, this will be funny. I just applied it to everything. Post-apocalyptic,
Douglas.
comedy, you know.
Yeah. I had, speaking of readers of catching errors, I had in my the first Rex Nilo book, I had a Starship Drifters. I had a line where they go through a magnetic some kind of a cloud, and and then they end up getting caught by this bad guy. And there's a line where he says, "So you went through this magnetic cloud, and almost escaped me, but you ended up being caught, by me after all." And then Rex says, he's correcting him. He says, "Ionic, isn't it?" And the copy editor took that out.
Oh no!
So it was ironic, isn't it? And I didn't realize it until after the book was published. And I looked at it and I was I was like, I love that line. It was just so stupid. And so I republished the book and I put the line back in, so I fixed it. So.
There's your alternate history. What if the editor hadn't?
Right, that's the thing that
Everything hinges on
changed everything.
Now, Rob, I will say that reading Mercury Falls was a thrilling moment for me because I felt like someone in science fiction finally was doing what I was hoping to accomplish as well. And so actually you're an influence
Wow,
in a
okay.
certain way.
Thank you.
And because, I grew up reading Heinlein, Clark, Asimov, and all of those guys are sex fiends of one variety or another, not to mention the bizarre, politics and metaphysics that they're all pushing, And I was there for the spaceships, and the gadgets.
Yeah.
And I loved it. But, there's something bad when your entire literary diet is people who have an agenda which you find contrary to what you believe in. Sorry, I
think-
really brought us down.
I think Heinlein at least, I don't know if he had an agenda, but he took on a lot of different possible agendas and pushed them at various times and did it well enough that it didn't come across, well, sometimes it did come across as he's trying to push that, but he liked to explore different worldviews. And
Okay, so then we're going to settle this with a fight.
yep,
He's at his fighting weight. I hope you've been training.
I'm at my fighting weight, right? I still haven't fought anybody. I need to fight. I can't fight anybody. I broke both my wrists. I ain't fighting anybody.
That actually segues into my next question, which is Brad. Stuff. There's not really anything. I mean, we're not looking at big political. There's no reason, for example, normal people. There's nothing political.
Hang on, that's my cover blur. There's no reason normal people couldn't.
We're cast-offs of the universe here, right? Where the people aren't telling them.
I'm halfway serious about making that a cover blur. That's a really good line. There's no reason normal people couldn't read this. I'm writing that down.
And except for your hot take on Lincoln, I don't get a strong political vibe from anybody here, and let's do you ever go like, oh, I'm really going to stick it to somebody, or do you have anything like that when you're creating that part of it?
Yeah, the novel I'm working on now is not going to be humorous, particularly, and it is more political. And I am thinking very hard about how not to make the villains cartoons. And that's going to be the biggest challenge. But I can't say anything more about that. Um, you know, I don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah, I should stop there.
Part of the problem with that is that the real world villains are cartoons. So, like, what do you do?
Can you repeat the question?
I don't think I can actually. I just noticed from reading, like here we are at a conference and after a fashion. Yet there's no politics. It's just like Bob Dick. I don't get.
Once in a while, something will slip in. I mean, if Bob meets a bureaucrat, the bureaucrat's going down hard, and that's just how it is.
Politics, though. That's just normal. That's normal people don't like.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, that normal people can dig it because I turned my HVAC guy onto it, and he likes it a lot.
My HVAC guy. See, I haven't thought about selling it to my HVAC guy. That's my mistake.
Well, okay. So here's another question. What about tastes? We know Fred doesn't have it.
Yeah, well, I can, and maybe we should promote humorous novels that don't get the attention they deserve. But my example of the kind of dark humor that I really love would be an otherwise author to stay away from, Norman Spinrad. But his novel, The Iron Dream, is, well, it begins with a piece of literary criticism introducing a novel which was written in the alternate past, which was written by the popular science fiction author, an American named Adolf Hitler. And then the bulk of The Iron Dream is Hitler's novel called Lord of the Swastika, which describes these ugly, sort of squinty-eyed, money-grubbing space aliens who invade Earth, and then the masculine heroes of the humans repel the invasion. And then there's a bit at the end, like, we can be, it turns, if you look at Hitler's life, you find out that when he lived in Germany, he was actually involved in some very disturbing politics. We can be very thankful that he never followed, that timeline. And the edition that I read, I wish I could remember, a prominent left-wing author did an intro to the Iron Dream novel, and it's just so, people think this is, people think that this is funny. And this is not funny at all. We're talking about the imminent rise of fascism in the United States, and people need to wake up. It's all of this whole, fascism is always descending on the United States, but it always ends up landing somewhere else. I think that's a Tom Wolfe line, but in any case, The Iron Dream is not a serious novel. It's not a warning. It is one of the funniest books I've ever read, and I mean, the fact that Spinrad got inside Adolf Hitler's head for the months that it took to write this, it's just like, oh man, no wonder he turned out so screwed up. But we are all the beneficiaries. I strongly recommend The Iron Dream.
Once again, he has wandered off with my mind.
Well, do you have a humor book you think is underserved?
Wow, right off the top of my head, you're asking me this.
Or the original question was your taste in humor as well. You could answer that.
My taste in humor is, well, lowbrow.
Okay.
Slapstick, like I said, Marx Brothers, Burt Reynolds, lowbrow stuff. I don't go for the more complicated stuff usually.
Boy, yeah, as far as the stuff that I like, I mean, yeah, a range of stuff from I mean, like the and I mean, you see this in my books. I mean, I do, you know, all kinds of like literary references and stuff, but you know, and like very long sort of shaggy dog stories, and I do, you know, bad puns and like every kind of just because it's all fun in different ways. And so yeah, I mean, I like the Marx Brothers movies. You know, I'm trying to think of. I love. There's okay a couple of movies that you should watch that if you haven't seen yet. Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. If you've never seen that, that just kills me. That's just such a funny, and it's just so well done as a mock documentary. And the other one is What We Do in the Shadows. You've seen that one? That's just brilliant. Another one. What's that? I haven't seen the series. I only know the movie, and it's just like that kills me as well. No pun intended. So.
You know, when it was earlier when they were talking which dystopia we were in, I was thinking Network. That movie.
Yeah.
Which I
Oh, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's just where my mind goes. A hospital, all that stuff. And then of course sometimes you have to go also to the States. I'm like, yeah, that's the where the university
The funniest line from the whole Planet of the Apes series is when the female chimpanzee says, "I'm a psychiatrist." And I don't know, do not know whether they intended that as to be humorous or not, but I
Right.
just
Right.
fell out of my chair when she said
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Sometimes the best lines are yeah, the funniest line, like what was it, the Superman movie, all these movies now that like I got to a point where they all blend together for me, but the what movie is it where with a terrible line where he says, "Why did you say that name?" About because he says Martha.
Batman v
Yeah, and like it's like 2 hours lead up to that point, and it's just like if you look at that entire movie, and I guess the director's cut, which is much longer and it is much better, but I haven't seen it. But if you look at the original movie as like the whole thing being a setup to that joke, it's actually an extremely funny joke, and it's almost worth watching just as you know, it's just like wait for this line because this is great. Like I know that they meant it.
I need to disagree with you.
Okay.
The part where she sits down on top of the stack of boxes and says, "Because I don't like bananas."
See, and that's the difference between their tastes.
Sense of humor. You know, there is a very important subgenre of comedy, which is unintended comedy. I would love to hear suggestions along those lines.
well, you know, that one, you know, I wasn't joking about my songwriting. I've written songs about Plan 9 from outer space, Cat Living on the Moon, you know, and there is a perfect level of incompetence. And it works for writing too, like it's not, Edison's Conquest of Mars. And, you know, it's because it's of its time, but it's also really, it's very sincere and absolutely preposterous at the same, which is the best.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I would much rather see, you know, Tommy Wiseau act his heart out in the room than, you know, Batman v Superman. I could watch The Room twice. It's still going. You know? But yeah, I agree. There is unintentional comedy, and there's a lot of it. But since you were talking about working on a dramatic, I was thinking about this in terms of Rob as well. I am, you know, I'm writing my little action adventure series there, and I chicken out when I come here. I always read the parts. I want to get the cheap out. But the books aren't like that generally, because you know you always run that risk with a joke in there. You're gonna break. You know, you don't want the city to be destroyed and say, "Well, that just happened." And so I'm not naming names, but I think you'll get that. So, like, are you going to tamp down on the humor? Are you going to find ways to work it in? And I know it's a secret project. And I'll have to forget exactly.
Well, a lot of my humor is more in creating a preposterous premise and then just writing it relentlessly. And, and so
Mm-hmm.
again, a lot of the times I'm not really thinking about the humor, and then people are laughing, and that happens to me all the time. That's fine. That's great. But maybe, it may be that when I'm done writing it and my beta readers are, oh, that was funny. Another funny one, Fred.
This
I
is
go,
your
"What?
funniest
What?
one yet."
Yeah, that was my serious novel. So that could very easily happen. Oh yeah. My one of my writing group partners reads my short fiction all the time. Yes.
Now, Jerry, are you going to dabble in serious, right?
Oh, I should tear right into that in my copious free time. But,
In between the next Bob and Nikki books, you're going to do something like a take on Hamlet.
well, then I got to put an egglet, and we're now past serious.
Yeah, I don't know. What the question is going back to
Usually,
like
you
seriousness.
switch,
Yeah.
There's not a lot of humor in Iron Dragon.
No. And yet there is a reference to it, but and even that, I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's only really funny if you know the backstory. It's kind of an in joke, and I do that once in a while just because I write. I started writing mainly just to entertain myself, so and I still do that. But yeah, it's they're for me almost two completely different kinds of writing. It's two different hats that I wear, and I can't really. I've tried a little bit, like to inject more humor into the serious ones, or to write some kind of the funny stuff, but a little bit more. It seems like I have to go all out one way or the other almost, and sometimes I do. Yeah, I mean, jokes once in a while come up, but I think it's like kind of like Fred was saying. A lot of the humor, a lot of humor in general is setting up a situation and then just having it play out. And what situation you're setting up is going to depend a lot on the type of book that you're writing. And a lot of what the Rex books are is, okay, look, I'm going to think of the most just crazy situation that I can, where I have people doing something that's just absolutely absurd, but they're taken completely seriously. And it's usually there's some kind of a juxtaposition between two ideas that's taking place. And I sometimes I have sort of a metaphor for this in my head, and it's not quite, it hasn't quite gelled, to use a metaphor to describe a metaphor, but it's almost like moving it, like pushing a rock to the top of a hill or something, where it's like once I've set up the situation, then it's like it's easy to let it go, and then it just becomes, it's funny, but there's a lot of work in getting the rock up the hill. It's like, so what's the situation? How do I push this situation to be that to have that humorous? And if you don't have that situation, God, it's just so hard to try to be funny. If you're just trying to like I'm gonna write another funny line, and then you just feel like you feel stupid, and it doesn't work. And that's when I realize I need to just sit and stare at a wall for a while until the rock is on top of the hill.
So I think I'm hearing you saying you're a literary system.
Yeah.
Because, after you told the jokes, the rock's at the bottom of the hill again, buddy. You got to push that.
You got to do it again, and every time you got to do it multiple times in every book, and you do it once kind of for the main concept of the book, and then you have to do it a bunch of other times, and then you get done, and you're like, oh, whew, that was what a relief that was, and then it's down at the back of the bottom again, and you start over, and then you're never sure, like like I did this before, I must be able to get the rock to the top of the hill, but maybe I can't this time, maybe it won't work. It's really hard. I don't know if I can do it.
Tell me about it.
Now we've undone all the counseling.
Yeah. What a failure.
What he was talking about, the whole insecurity of, the last one was funny. Are they going to like this one? Is it going to go over good? Did I mess up? People like my books, obviously. But I don't know what the special sauce is. I got no idea what the special sauce is. And I'm always afraid, that the morning when I put them up, did I mess this one up? Is there no special sauce? Is this one gonna tank? I don't know. And I really wish I knew what it was that I do right so I could keep doing it, but apparently I've gotten lucky so far. You know, what he's talking about setting up the situations, yeah, to a certain extent I do that too, but a lot of what I do, I think, is more just the characters live in my head.
Yeah. I should say as a caveat to, you know, what I was saying is that I'm describing my own writing process, and it could be completely different for you, but that's the way it is for me. It's all kind of the situation, and there's like the characters obviously are a huge part of it too. But you know, you probably focus more on the characters and just let them play out and do the
Yeah,
situation.
I mean, it's like, okay, the tension is off. Topper is gonna crack wise to Bob. It's gonna happen. What is it he's gonna say? I don't know, but we'll figure it. And what's Bob gonna say back? Is that gonna be funny? Maybe.
It's really a way of life. You really have to be the type of person who just puts the bizarro things together and sees the funny combinations in everyday life. And if you're not that person, then you know you've got something else to contribute. But yeah, you can't just write a novel and then sprinkle a bunch of jokes. How would that even work? That would be a disaster. Don't even try it.
It has to flow, you know.
Yeah.
Like she was saying at breakfast, it has to scan. You know, if it doesn't scan, if it sticks up, then it doesn't belong there. I am a big believer in no speed bumps. You know, you pick that thing up, you're not going to want to put it down ever until you get to the end. No speed bumps, no fancy language, you know. I mean, the occasional 3-syllable word, but I usually apologize for it.
See, my parents were English professors, so I've been ruined. And I always want to put the fancy words in. It's fun.
In fourth book, I have a sword. Catch grass, right? I'm reading it. It's a sword. It's catching grass. 3 pages later, sword. What's a sword? 18 times this word appears in the book. 18th time they asked me. That's it. It's a patch of grass. Global search and replace.
You're missing your humor opportunity. The other character
Right.
should be asking him, what the heck is a sword?
It's a sword.
And you know, you can riff off of that.
Well, actually, I did this whole thing reading this about mothers, and how that actually happens. The main character is talking to his mother, and a war is breaking out on the planet. And the giant dragonfly comes in front of the camera and says, "You have to come. We're having this war." His mom says, "What's happening?" He says, "I think we're throwing a party, Mom." And the dragonfly says to him, but then I was like, wait a minute, you wouldn't know what a mother is. It's like, oh, wow, this is a great way to do this. Yeah, that's the kind of comedy that comes out just from the characters and the situation.
right.
So, some of us may have noticed, if those of us who still watch movies in theaters, there's not a lot of comedy out there. It's been years since mainstream comedy released had any, real oomph. In fact, the guy who did the Hangover movies, now he's done Halloween, a bunch of horror films. He's done a horror film.
And we know exactly why nobody can make a comedy. Because sooner or later, you're going to start making fun of somebody, and that's going to hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
There's too many things you can't make fun of now that it's almost impossible to make a comedy. I mean, you can make a comedy out of trying to make a comedy these days.
It would be the death of Stalin. Right?
Yeah.
It would be the same kind of thing. Oh, you made a joke about it. Do that. They'd be running around trying to find it was okay to attack that particular group, right?
Death of Stalin is definitely my kind of humor, by the way. Just add that to your list of data.
I'm going to pitch, because I always do when I have everybody's attention, Hundreds of Beavers. best movie I've seen this year. Straight up silent movie type comedy. Chuck Jones meets Buster Keaton meets like a video game. It's very, very fun. Um,
What are you talking about? What?
Hundreds of Beavers. Did I stutter? Hundreds of Beavers.
No, I haven't heard about this. What is the deal? I
It's a
gotta
very
write this
indie
down.
movie, but you can see it online now. You can
That's that
stream it.
little place halfway between Reno and Vegas, isn't it?
The fight, it's also, it's a super clean movie. You know, it's there's never the obvious joke, not once. It's just a trapper in the 19th century or 18th century U.S. to win his love, and she's the daughter of a trader. And in order to win her hand, he has to get hundreds of people. And it's very, very funny. And it was made on like $250,000 and guys wearing, and that was mostly for beaver costumes. Because it's just guys in beaver costumes with like hats. Sometimes. You know, when you make the hat, it's the dead mask on top of your head. Little X's for eyes. It's very, very funny. But you don't normally see it, and I'm thinking, you know, you're doing very well, Jerry. You know, is this like an opening? Is this some place where people don't have sticks up their butt can, you know, possibly profit?
I think I've gotten, I mean, yeah, when I started out, I had a plan, more or less, but I've gotten very lucky that I made the right plan. You know, I had been reading a ton before I started writing. And mostly I was seeing really serious adventures, cussing wall to wall, lots of sex. And the other thing that I found myself reading a lot of was cozy mysteries. And in the middle there wasn't a whole lot. That's a nice big hole. I maybe could write something in there. And she can tell you, there's no way I'm going to write serious. I mean, so that part was just natural. I don't know any more to tell you. It just, you know, I got lucky. I mean, at the time I was reading a lot of Michael Anderle, and I don't know if you know about his series, but he's heavy into creative cussing. It's like, okay, I can put that in, but I'm not going to be as good as he is.
Didn't he also paint the Sistine Chapel?
That was his cousin.
Oh,
Yeah, and you have like you don't see a lot of redneck sci-fi, huh? And I mean that's a great niche, underserved, shall we say? You know, you got your books, and then things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know, comedies like that. On the Wrong Turn. You know. What am I doing with laughs?
Yeah. I picked the wrong moderator, but that's fine. Keep going.
I'm more of a horror guy. Yeah.
You know, it all depends on, you know, how much chemical enhancement we're talking about before we start the movie, but, you know.
So, Rob, you have contracts, right? Because you got your series books, and you're doing it all wrong. Because
I am doing it wrong, yeah.
So,
If I was I should at the very least have two different names that I'm writing under, or at least put my, like, Robert A. Kroese, and then Robert Kroese. But yeah, I put everything under my name before I realized you shouldn't write all kinds of different things under the same name. So I don't know where I'm going with that. But yeah, I think that there's definitely an opening for comedy, especially like in movies. I think comedy is a really hard sell with books, because you're kind of making a commitment with a book, picking up a book and start reading it, pay, you know, even if it's just $5 or whatever. Because if you fail at comedy, it's painful. If you fail at an action, you know, at any other genre really, like if the horror is not quite horrifying enough, if the action isn't quite exciting enough, you know, it still can be a reasonably entertaining story. But if you fail at humor, it's not funny, and it's almost the opposite of funny, and it's just like it's a guy trying to be funny, which is the worst thing to be watching. You know, it's like when you're watching a comedian bomb on stage, and it's just painful. So I think it's a hard sell, at least in books. The flip side of that, of course, is that there's no faking comedy so like when you make somebody laugh out loud, you're making them have an involuntary physical response to something that you have written on the page, and that's kind of amazing. I mean, so that's it's really I mean, it's hard to do, and it's a tough market. I think I would not recommend, sadly, that if anybody, unless you can find a, like, if you're really smart about it and find an underserved genre and find something, that a niche where people are like, oh, this is a nice, you know, series that I can get into, and then you write a book every 3 weeks or something, like like Jerry does, and clean up, then that's a good idea. But otherwise, it's a really hard market. But the reward is, of course, that you get people to laugh, and that's, I mean, it's a good thing to make people laugh. It's joy, it's happiness, and it's, again, it's something that you're making them do almost against their will. Like you're making them laugh, and it's like, even if
It's
somebody
the
doesn't,
power.
it's
the
the power.
power.
Yeah, and it comes back to the class clown thing, right? Like, it's like you're completely powerless. You're the little nerdy kid or whatever, and the girls don't like you. And wait a minute, I'm just describing myself. So I'm sorry, where am I going with this?
You're a loser.
I'm a loser. You've got no friends. They make fun of you for your Snoopy lunchbox, and then honestly, I really have genuinely forgotten where I'm going.
Okay.
No, it's a defense mechanism. It's a way of taking back power, and that's kind of a twisted way of looking at it. But that's the way it starts. Is like, how am I gonna get people to notice that, like, I exist, that I'm not just a nothing here in a desk in the back of the room. You know, it's like, and I teachers both loved and hated me, because I was like, at least in the first few grades, I was, really smart and was a very pleasant child and stuff. But I also always, was ready with a wisecrack, and just and breaking up the whole class, because like middle school kids and elementary school kids they're pretty easy audience. To be honest, I mean, their standards aren't super high, and you're in school with, like, at the most boring place possible, so it's like it's a pretty fertile territory for making jokes. So it's, I mean, it's a kind of obvious career choice. It's like, what am I going to be doing here while I'm here at Ada Elementary School?
We got a question
I
here.
was gonna say, we've covered a lot of ground here psychologically. We want to just rob some time.
Give me some time. I need a moment.
We have some Kleenex. With me, it's going to be characters. I mean, all my stuff is character driven. I mean, obviously you have to have a situation to put the characters in, but I got to have this person in my head talking to me to be able to write what they're going to say.
It's situation for me. This year I released a trilogy. It's a boarding school farce, and it's really because I consider elite boarding schools. Well, I do have a fascination, and a kind of there's a snobbery in me that would have loved to attend an elite boarding school and wear the blazer with the crest and oh my gosh, what's this? But then also I consider those places utterly absurd and so unstable, and you just touch them and they shatter. And so it was all about exploring a country boy, probably kind of similar to me, who lies his way into an elite boarding school in New Hampshire because he's going to be the school Machiavelli, and then he finds out that everybody in the school is a Machiavelli.
So this is great, because I'm going to say we got one of each, and now I'm going to say I start with both, because the character and the situation always go together. So, like, even my first novel, Mercury Falls, the idea of a fallen angel is intrinsically bound up with the whole metaphysical thing with heaven and hell and what's going on with that. Rex Nilo is not Rex without the kind of Star Wars-ish background that he's in. So it always goes together. I couldn't tell you which one starts first. It's always just kind of grows naturally, organically.
I think Rex is a great character because he thinks he's a Machiavelli, but he's just too stupid to pull it off.
He's stupid and yet lucky.
Lucky, yeah. That's a
Horribly unlucky and yet lucky at the same time.
Right.
One thing I would like to add, I think right now is a great time to be playing in the comedy space because real life right now, it ain't the best. People need a giggle. And if you can give them that giggle, you got something you can work with.
See, I need to do more research. I was toying with the idea of making a comedy series about a bureaucrat in hell. And the problem, you know the phrase, when hell is full, the dead will walk the earth. Well, hell is full, and so Satan's going to come to the demon and go, look, you have to get up there and start making people behave better. You know, just the whole premise of him working against purpose because they just don't have any room.
That's pretty good.
No vacancy.
Yes, exactly. There you go. Nice.
There's your title
There's the
right
title,
there.
yeah. So I just wanted to, do we have any questions? You should probably take. I wanted to comment on Jerry. I loved your reading. I've read the Bob Mickey. And I thought your reading, though, made it 10 times funnier. Do you read your own audiobooks?
No, I don't. I had no idea about how to go about making audiobooks, what was involved in producing them. I got an offer from Podium. They were going to take care of all the details. Yeah, that sounds good. I get my 10% and I don't have to do squat. I just send you the file. I like this idea. Yeah. So they got a fellow by the name of Chris Shula. Have a hard time with his name. I don't know why. But and he has done a wonderful job. He does great character voices, and I couldn't be happier. And they have, in fact, contracted for the March Magic series, and they got Chris to read those too. So I'm a happy camper, you know?
Yeah.
Fred, I was going to ask you about your next LP, which you're going to release songs on.
Vinyl all the way, baby.
Absolutely. You got to get that integrity.
Yes. I'll get dust off my Bang and Olufsen turntable.
Do you actually have, though, any place where people can go to enjoy?
You know, actually, I recorded it. It's an earlier version of Abraham Lincoln Was an Invader from Space, is still on YouTube. So I actually got, it used to be on, what's the one? Not Spotify, but the other one. I think so. But I got I was contacted out of the blue by somebody who said that went away. I love that song. So there was one fan in the world who explains why I earned that 0.6 of a cent in royalties
Well, I'm
for
confident
lifetime.
saying you've doubled your fan base. So you got at least 2 people here.
All right, great.
Yeah, let's don't talk about YouTube.
All right, do we have any questions? You want to ask these funny guys? No? An observation from this film. was actually going to ask Phil to tell a joke.
We could end on this.
We could end. Now,
So,
anyway, I think Gary has a joke.
well, you know, it's late at night. We're all grown-ups here. I think we can get away with this.
See if anyone should be plugging their.
So there's this rich fella, and he's obsessed with the history of General Custer. And he decides that what he really wants is a mural over his desk in his office in his house of Custer's last thoughts. So he hires an artist, and the artist goes in the office and he says, "Well, I can't have you in here while I'm working." So he goes in there, he's working for like a week. And the guy comes, knocks on the door, asks him, "Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet?" And he says, "No, it's not ready yet. Can we get you when it's done?" And so, you know, he goes away and he's trying to be patient. He makes it about another week. Comes back, knocks on the door. "It's not ready yet. I told you. I'll come and get you when it's done." So the third week is almost done. And the artist comes and finds the guy. He says, "Here, I'm ready for the unveiling. Come on back to the office." And so, you know, he goes to the office and he whips the cover off, and in the corner there's this picture of Jesus. And there's a whole field of Indians, well, in flagrante delicto, I believe is how it's pronounced. And the fellow looks at the painting, studies it a minute, he looks over at the artist, looks back at the painting, and looks back at the artist. Yes. Do you think Custer's last thoughts were? Jesus Christ, look at
And on that note, try the veal.
No, I am no. You. I'm done.
All right, I guess that's it then. All right, thank you.
Yeah, go too far with that.
Serving
All right, so that's our last
Thank you.
panel of the evening.